Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this third day of February 2022, Friday. Long week for me, long week here in the Nashville, Tennessee area. Long week for everybody. A lot of ice and issues really across the Mid-South, Southwest, and whatnot. Glad everybody been able to make it through the week. Kyrie Irving wants to get out of request a trade. We'll talk about that. What else is new, right? Got Carlos Mad, New Yorker Chavez in around here somewhere, and going to bring him in. Have a few topics to talk with him about, and more here on Sports Scope. We'll get our first break out of the way, and we'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. After 5 years of doing this program once a week, balancing a 60-hour work week job, I've decided to do the program 5 days a week, 1 hour a night, taking a significant pay cut. So I've started a Patreon page, which is Patreon, Patreon/SportsScope, spelled the same way at the bottom of the screen you see there, for $5 a month, 17 cents a day. You can help support the program. You ask yourself, why Sports Scope? Well, I bring in such big names such as Al Borges, former Auburn offensive coordinator, and I cover the big news in sports that the corporate media will not cover. If you want to contribute more than $5 a month, you can go use the Cash App. The cash tag is Sports Scope, again, spelled the same way. Or you can go to the Zelle app, sportscope@gmail.com. SportsScope has about 5,000 followers and growing. If you want to advertise on the program, you can email me. The word is SportsScope, spelled the same way again, @gmail.com. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Now I am back here on All Links Live now. Okay, now let's start with the biggest story of the day, okay? Kyrie Irving. Maya Angelou said, great writer, when people tell you who they are, believe them, okay? When people tell you who they are, believe them. And so this guy, essentially, he quit on Cleveland, wanted to get out from underneath LeBron's shadow, but he basically quit on him. Forced his way out of town, goes to Boston, quits on Boston in a series. A lot of your Boston fans will tell you that. Your Corey's, my friend Corey of the World and Andre, they all know him about his experience in Boston. Now he's quit on Brooklyn. So you're on a contract here, which usually you get the most out of the play. I'm sure his agent didn't advise him to do this. So you're on a contract year, and you're fourth in the East. And I just went over trade scenarios, help that they need for this team to be successful. All right. And since he cannot get his contract extension, he wants to be traded to a team before the trade deadline coming up on next Thursday, the 9th. So he can be traded and get his money. So it's never about anybody else. And I see you, Carlos. I'll bring up just a second. But Kyrie, and I've said this before about Kyrie Irving. He don't have the off-field stuff or off-court issues like an Antonio Brown, but this is one of those people who they've burned so many bridges. They have burned absolutely so many bridges. Once their career's over with, you're not going to see them do business out. You're never going to see them start like a big three. You'll never see them go in with another player because he's burning bridges constantly burning bridges. Always wants attention, Corey says it's an agent of chaos. You know, who would represent a guy like Kyrie Irving? Let me bring in Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez here. So you kind of heard my rant a little bit.
Yeah, man. Why are you picking on Kyrie? Why does everybody pick on Kyrie?
Dude, I wouldn't pay this guy for all the tea. I mean, he's one of those people. I just wouldn't give him 20 cents of my time.
Everybody's playing this card right now. He's not the only player, man. Harden's been on like 15 teams.
Yeah,
he got like $350 million. People still paying him to play on their team. I mean, listen, if you got the skills and you got the athleticism and you're looking to play, even if you're in your mid-30s in the NBA, I guess the world's your oyster, right? Like, you could do what you want. This is what these players are allowed to do because the owners and their agents have allowed it to happen. Like, at the end of the day, you can't blame them. They're just a product of what they're in right now. And the product is the NBA. And the NBA
is of their environment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. And the NBA is like, pay a lot for very little, return on the investment. But at the end of the day, these tickets are crazy, bro. These tickets to go to see the Nets, to see, LeBron play, to see Harden play, to see these people play other than the Nets. On those days, those teams are skyrocketed expensive. So it is what it is. And you have to pay for it if you want those players on your team. And Kyrie's one of those guys that, unfortunately, you don't want on your team, but you need on your team. Like, so it's basketball, which is a different product than NFL because there's less players and these players demand more attention. And it was people like Michael Jordan that kept people watching the NBA, but it was people like Dennis Rodman, like Ron Artest, like I can name a whole lot of guys, and Tony McDyess, that kept it interesting, right? It's the NBA, and this is what it's like changed. This is it's a different era. Things have changed, and this is what it is right now. Social media's changed everything. And these guys demanding more money for very little return on investment. So if you're willing to spend money on some of these guys, then you're gonna get what you get, and you can't get upset.
Right.
It is what it is.
Very good. Hold that thought. That is a good thought right there. Because you can't get upset because this is the game we play. Let me respond to Peckles. Kyrie wants money, but don't want to compete. Where's the dignity in winning and getting rewarded for winning? I mean, I know it's a rhetorical, but like these guys don't have an ounce of. Not everybody. Giannis has got a lot of pride. Jimmy Butler.
That's not fair to say.
A lot of pride.
Check out one. I'll give you one person, for example, whose stats are outrageous, but nobody wants him on his team, and that's what's this guy that played with Durant and played for the Thunder, and he plays for LA now. Westbrook, yeah, Westbrook. He got about maybe 4 years worth of just high end, like reps and high end. Records, holding records, and different things, right? Who wants him on? But do you want him on your team? But he has to perform at that level. He has to get those numbers so he can continue to get paid more, right? Nobody wants him on this team, so it's not. You can't have it both ways, Robert. This product, the NBA, what they're giving you, it is what it is.
Yeah, let me respond to that. And here's my thing, and I think you've probably heard me talk about this before. Is why don't these owners just say, okay, Stephen A. Smith is saying this. This is not just me. I've heard him say this. We're going to have to get pay as you play. This is Stephen A. Smith, Mr. Pro Player, Pro NBA said that. Why don't they just stomach a lockout and get away from these guaranteed contracts so you won't have Kyrie Irving's on your team?
My man, we used to buy Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets and sip on some Coca-Cola talking about this mess back in 2010.
20 years ago. Bro. 21 years ago now.
We was talking about that when we was in college. Like, we should have been in the NBA because they paying these cats to do pretty much nothing. Like, like Corey, Westbrook is cooked, but he had to get cooked to get those numbers, to sell jerseys, to play for whatever team he wanted to be on.
So do you think, what do you think about my proposal? Just stomach a lockout and let these guys and get away from these. I'm not saying none of it's not guaranteed. You could guarantee a portion of it. Does 100% of these contracts have to be guaranteed? I know second round picks are not, for the record.
Right. So here's the deal, right? As much as there's guaranteed money, there's also money about production and time on the court. And there's a lot of small little things that us fans sometimes kind of look over
and stuff.
Because we don't like you can't play on that salary, on a high end salary, and be put in on the second team. You can't, because it's not allowed in your contract. So what do these players do and these teams do? They have them hold out. If they get injured for 1 week, they hold them out for 3 weeks, so that way they can make sure that they get their money and make sure when they start they're not like, in bad conditions. So it's everybody playing. It's everybody, everybody got their hand in the cookie jar, and nobody wants to come out and take the time to get their own, man. So that's the problem the NBA has, and with the players, especially with
let me stop you there. So are you trying to say that, and I think I'm hearing you right, that nobody's really concerned about the greater good of the league?
No.
Right. That's where the old commissioner, he had his flaws. Corey probably knows what I'm talking about. The former
Which
commissioner.
one? You talking about the little guy?
The older guy, he just died a few years ago. The former commissioner.
Yeah, he what he did for the NBA it was a different time.
It seemed like he cared more about David Stern, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that he didn't care, and I'm not going to say that he did care.
But is that what you're trying to say? But people are worried about getting their own rather than the greaterness of the league.
What's happened with the expansion of the NBA because of David Stern, right?
Stern, yeah.
Right. You now need to fill these rosters, these other teams, with players that are just as good as the top rated players now. Now, because they saw that there was a flaw in that, they had created the developmental league. But now they're not. Now they're kind of still stuck in the middle because they still have very little players that are on the top tier and a lot of players in the middle and low tier. This is kind of what's happening in the NFL right now too. Okay. So it's a project. It's a situation that has to do with players and their own development, whether they go to college, they don't go to college, they play overseas, or it's a little bit of, and it also has to deal with what can the player get at that moment. Like we're looking at it as fans. We're not looking at it as a business, and it's a business, people. I know you buy tickets, but that's part of the business too. And I do not feel sorry for you, because I feel sorry for a lot of fans because they're not getting to watch.
We're the contributors to the business,
right? So, but
if we didn't watch it, they wouldn't get paid anything.
But the system in athletic sports, in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL,
we're the customers. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Is that the high end players? There's very little of. And sometimes it's like 4 elite players or 10 elite players, and then like a bunch of good players, and then bam, it just kind of falls. So a roster has like 3 or 4 good, great, good people on the team that you're paying for, and then the rest of the team is not balanced out, right? So especially in hockey and in NBA, because they have smaller rosters. So what do you do? Right. So you still have TV money that comes in. You still have merchandising the money that comes in. You still have to pay contracts to the arena. There's a lot of money movement.
Are you okay with what this stunt he pulled today?
I've been saying this for the last 4 or 5 years, even before COVID. The quality of play in sports has gone down, but the money that we have to spend, that we pay as fans, has gone up, and that's not good. And like I told you, and I told people, as much as I love New York and New York sports, I'm not going to go pay and watch a Knicks game to see what's going on there.
Okay, let me add. You're in New York City. You love the Knicks. I kind of admire the Knicks. I've always did. When I was living there, I could talk Knicks basketball with anybody. How much? What do you think it costs for 2 people to go to a game? You and your son.
Right now?
Yeah.
$200.
$200
minimum, and that's not me enjoying the game. That's me like looking at the pigeon seats, man. Looking from the top of the arena, bro.
For a mediocre 7th seed basketball team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When I was living in New York, it was $8 for bleacher seats for the Yankees. And I hated the Yankees, but that was the best deal. And it was really high like that 20 years ago and for the Knicks.
And I'm not going to lie, you can find a few steals here and there, but why as a fan do I have to look for the cheapest deal? Like I want to get a good deal, and I want to see good good actually play. You know,
How
so
much is it for refreshments?
like a beer is like $12 to $15. Liquor is like $18 to $20. Like
How about a hot dog and just a
a
regular
hot dog is
Coke?
like $6 to $8. Like it's crazy, man. It's ridiculous.
$200, and that's for how much for the seats alone? 200.
The seats are probably about okay seats, like towards the top of the middle of the arena is about $80 to $90 a pop.
Yeah, and they play 41 home games. You could get
Yeah.
Titans tickets cheaper than that.
I mean, well, the thing is, I'm in New York City. That's another thing, right? I'm at the.
You're paying for that high rent.
Yeah, I'm paying for the high rent. Exactly. I'm paying for the MSG that's written on top of my arena right
Yeah.
now. So, you know, and Dolan want to go out and be like, he don't want nobody to talk bad about him, and he's ready to be like, I'm sorry, I gotta look for a charger. My battery's about to go out.
No, okay, yeah, do what you got to do.
He's looking for a cheap way to a way to get back at people who say, you know, that don't like him. You heard about
he's got thin skin. That guy's got a lot of thin skin. Okay, so this is what I think they should do. I didn't get a lot of time. This kind of really caught me off guard, everybody. But essentially, you know, the Lakers are one of the teams that are rumored to be interested. And I'm thinking he would be perfect for LeBron. LeBron's about LeBron. He's not as bad as Kyrie. Kyrie's about Kyrie. You know, LeBron, he comes into town. He brings guys like Lonzo Ball on his TV show, The Shop, and everything. And then behind the scenes, he can't wait to get him and Ingram and all those guys out of town so he can go out and get Anthony Davis in. And so I'm thinking they would be perfect for each other. They're both just total, I can't find another word other than narcissistic. I know that's kind of a strong word, but just egocentric people like LeBron James. So my thing is, even though I know that Anthony Davis is an injury-prone player, nobody wants Westbrook, God. But Anthony Davis, for him, those salaries are very close. Maybe you give him a bench player. Maybe you throw in a draft pick or two for Kyrie. Then you got Kyrie, LeBron. You got those other players around him. You got Anthony Davis. You got a 4 seed. By the way, Durant will be back. He'll be back around. He's supposed to play in the All-Star game, and it's 2 weeks from Sunday, Carlos.
I don't know that. You know what? I don't.
That's just me spitballing potential trades.
Yo, Pickles mentioned about MJ. Let me tell you something about MJ. And it was a different time. It was different NBA.
Yes.
And Jerry Krause, just Stern and the owner, was it Krause? Jerry Krause?
Jerry Krause for the
owner for the Chicago.
Oh yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
or it might have been Ronsdorf.
He made it a point.
I think Krause was the GM and Ronsdorf was the owner.
Yeah, and he made it a point to try to coddle Jordan as much as possible.
Yeah.
And all these stories, whether we know whether they're true or not, coming out just goes to show that Jordan wasn't an angel, and Jordan had a lot of baggage, and that a lot of it didn't come out because social media wasn't that big anyways. So we don't know what reports are true. We don't know, what it is. These poker games that happen. He claims that he's been in poker games, so we know that some of them did happen because he said so. We know that there's camera footage of him being in Vegas 2 days before a championship game. Like, look, what we know is what we know. That
he's a competitor. He doesn't want.
Yeah, no. We saw
doing nothing.
Right, no, but he was the most paid basketball player without having to worry about playing on a basketball court. So when he left to play baseball, he didn't have to worry about it because he was already taken care of.
Yeah.
That Nike deal was the one thing that was his security blanket at the end of the day. So we can't say nothing about Jordan because at the end of the day, Jordan had a security blanket, and it was a different era, man. It was a different time.
He covered up to protect that image, and of course that is true. And what they actually cared about winning, and Colin Cowherd has this theory that the money is so big, and so many players share the same agents. It's too buddy, and if you really want to get on a tangent, there's too much load management. The former coach that your guy that from ESPN that calls a lot of the Knicks games. He used to coach for the Knicks, works with the ESPN.
Mhm.
You know what I'm talking about. His brother also coached in the league. He coached for the Knicks in the 90s. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah. Van something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Van
That's
Gundy.
it.
Van
Van
Gundy.
Gundy. Yeah.
Yeah, but look,
Dan, Van Gundy, and Mike. You know, so that's just it's too buddy. There's too much load management. It's people wanting to get paid not to do. There's not a lot of guys that just are diehard, very serious competitors. Giannis is an old soul, but there's not too many Giannis's out there.
I don't think that's necessarily true. I think the reality is that there's too many games right now in the NBA for these players who are different type of. No. Listen to me before you guys go on the old school rhetoric. These guys are working. These guys are working out, and they have different, and they're actually more athletic, and they're faster than the players were in yesteryear. So they're actually using more energy, and they're using their muscles, and they're getting injured more because they're actually working out before games and after games. Like, you know, and there's people that did that, like Dennis Rodman, and there's a couple of guys that were crazy like that. But that wasn't the formula in the league back then, and it was a different style. You know, like the game was slower. The game was it was less shooting. It was more like dink and dive. You had centers that wouldn't last more than 3 years because they had bad knees because they play so physical. And that was the 80, and it's been the same, right? So, but you know, like the older guys are more, he used to be like that back in the day. Yeah, but back in the day, guys weren't running the speed that they're running at now. And there was only a few players that were doing the exercising, you know, before and after games. And you know, instead of resting one day, they would go and do a hill or two. Like, you know, this is different. This is a different time. Athletes, they're banged up and already hurt by the time they're doing that middle school AAU stuff already too. So, I mean, you know, some of these kids come into the league with injuries.
Not much.
You know, but, you know, you'd be surprised,
Concentration may be an issue. Too much concentration on one sport. I think it's just guys mailing it in personally. I just think, who's that famous boxer? He boxed during the Sugar Ray Leonard era in the 80s. He says it's really hard to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do road work when you're waking up on silk sheets. You know, when life is just so good.
Is that Hagler?
Yes. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Good call, man. Man, if he's on the show, I'd give you a bing right there. You get a point. You know.
So, hey, listen, guys, if you really want to impress the ladies, silk sheets is the way to go.
That's what Marvin Hagler said. I mean, he's just like, it's hard to do road work when you've got all these, when you wake up, you got a big payday from a big fight and you're getting ready for the next one, you know.
And I'm not gonna say that these
them guys either play or hit the bricks. I mean, that's Stephen A. Smith, Mr. Pro NBA is starting to come along to that type of thing.
I'm not giving credit to the players today in fighting, and you're
just being a realist. Is that what you're trying to do?
I'm saying that, you know, it's the fact of the matter is that the NBA should be on the up, and right now it's on the mediocre, and I dare say the same thing.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe a lockout's warranted, Carlos.
And I dare say the same for the NFL because of this crud that's happened this past season. Even though we're going to get a decent Super Bowl, I'm not going to go out there and pay a couple $100, $500 to watch no Giants or Jets games. I'm not going to do that. You know, so
even Colin Cowherd, he's Mr. Pro suck up LeBron. He even says the NFL is way better than the NBA as far as what the NBA has become. Now, I still like the competition. I think we're gonna have a good playoff, but I just wish guys had more pride and dignity. Like, don't you want to win first? You know, we're going to reward you if you win.
Right. I think you know what it is.
That was reported actually that they was going to give him a new contract, that they won a championship, and that wasn't good enough for him.
You know, I think it's also that everybody wants to win, but everybody knows that not everybody can win, right? So that, you know, and that's a problem, right? When the other teams have a lot of parity, you know, that's what happens. But that's what people were asking for. You know, every team wanted an opportunity to slide in, especially after the whole COVID thing. Oh, I want my team to be in the playoffs, and it looks like almost every team's in the playoffs nowadays.
Right, and I'm looking for that quote that that Stan's brother. No, yeah, it is Stan. Excuse me, Stan Van Gundy, Mr. Mustache.
The mustache.
Mr. Porn Stash is what people would call him. I mean, I didn't call him that, but I've known other people call him that, and it was really embarrassing looking. But God, he's coached everywhere. I had his quote here somewhere, and even Durant said, like, yeah, maybe you got a point. I mean, I was surprised Durant said something to him in a tweet about it, But, it was a really good quote about guys, he's like, the medical staffs are huge now. The guys are flying private. They've got everything at their disposal, and they're injured. Or they really injured, or the money's so good, if you got a hangnail, you're done. You're done. I got to get my manicure. So there may be some truth to that, Do you see any destinations for Kyrie?
Anybody who's willing to pay him. That's all I can say.
For competitive purposes.
Half of the NBA's in a playoff situation right now. It's like,
well, that is true. You got that play-in game with the 10th seed.
I would like to see him maybe in the West with Utah, or a game like Phoenix, like a team like Phoenix or Utah. Where they have to like play against Golden State, and because Golden State ain't giving away any players, so.
Well, Danny Ainge is running Utah. He probably wouldn't go for. Remember, he had a
no. I mean, I'm just saying, I would like to see him be on a competitive team that will go against Golden State. That's what I would like to see. But my voice don't matter, right? So
I'm just saying, if you were playing armchair general manager.
Yeah, probably Phoenix, maybe.
Yeah, Phoenix is one of them. The Mavericks, the Lakers.
Yeah, see, I don't think Cuban would go for a guy like Kyrie.
The Lakers, the Suns, and the Mavericks, according to Sean Sharamia, are all suitors for. Like I said, the Lakers. He fits in with that culture of the Lakers, and LeBron would be the best fit for maybe an Anthony Davis. I wouldn't want Westbrook on my team. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that you need him on your team. You want him on that wall. But you can't question. You can't have the rest of the other stuff. So you got to have thick skin and a big wallet, man. So that's who the next
Lakers are like 4 games under 500. I would love to see that. That's continuing to see the Lakers just go into basketball wise, yeah. But he's such a cancer at this point. He's quit on multiple teams. It's got to be more than just the player itself. He's unreliable, man.
Does he really quit on teams, or is like the team's not really that good, so he don't feel like playing?
They're a 4 seed.
Come on, man.
They're not far from my first. Hold on.
But I've
got the standings here. Hold on.
What you're saying to me,
you go ahead and talk. I'm just looking at the standings, brother.
What you're saying, you might say a 4 seed, but a 4 seed is really like a 6 or an 8 seed anyway.
They would play the 5 seed. They would have home court in the first round.
Right. No te preocupes, ahorita lo arreglamos, ¿ok?
Okay, they're 3 games out of second place. They're 6 games out of first place for Boston. Boston owns them. They beat them like 10 straight.
There you go.
You get like a 2 or 3 seed, you're not going to meet Boston until later. So my argument to Kyrie is, what if you go a few rounds in the playoffs and you look great? You're going to look more attractive to another team instead of quitting before the trade deadline. I mean, what is he thinking, man?
He keeps getting beat by Boston. That's what he's thinking. He don't want to keep seeing the same team, man. He wants an opportunity somewhere else. That's what he's thinking, man. If he can't beat Boston with the team he has now, then he's got to go somewhere where he can win.
Yeah, I would send him out to the West. I mean, Milwaukee, technically they would work, but if I'm Giannis, I don't want a guy like that on my team, man. It's just he's like one of these diva receivers. A little bit of Kyrie will go a long way, He's a rental, man.
Yeah. And
you don't marry this guy.
Yeah, let's switch me over.
Oh, okay. Let me bring you on the other one.
Yeah, man.
Remove.
Yeah.
Bad. Okay.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Sorry about that. My battery's on.
Okay, so it is what it is. This is an ongoing story saga. I'll probably talk about it Monday on Sports Scope. Let's move on. What are your thoughts about last week? What do you think about Cincinnati losing to Kansas City like that? I really thought Cincinnati's going to win that game.
I think a lot of people did.
Good defensive game there for good coaching there from Kansas City. Of course, Chris Jones played the game like we thought to help them win. What's your thoughts on that game last week in the NFL?
Well, I mean, one question for you, Robert. Do you think there was a fix?
No, I'll tell you what. Team's going to get home calls, man. You know, Cincinnati. I've been defending Cincinnati a lot. You know, I like Joe Burrow. I still think he can make throws that probably no other quarterback in the league can make. I know Mahomes can do certain things that he can do, or Josh Allen. I think both of those guys have stronger arms. But I'll say this: this team lost 4 games. Okay, they got off to a bad start. Kansas City did not lose those 4 games. They lost 3. Okay, so they deserve to be at home. Teams get home calls, okay? That's just the way it is. Part of me thinks they're very cocky. They're very chirpy, them being Cincinnati. And I think refs take that into account. And I think that refs kind of look the other way when there was some roughing calls that could have been called against Joe Burrow, which I saw 2 or 3. And they may favor Kansas. They shouldn't do that. Those guys are paid $200,000 a year, by the way, to call 3-hour football game. But it was bad ref. That guy was terrible. His crew will not cover the Super Bowl. I guarantee you that. And they won't cover any big games for a while. That's how the NFL works this.
Yeah, but that's a little too late, you know.
So what? So you think it's just really bad? What's your thoughts on the game?
I think that the game, Cincinnati, I think came in way too cocky. Burrowhead and
yes,
the teams thought that they would be able to score more, and they didn't. They should have. They should have used the speed, and they didn't. They did stick with the running game, which I was kind of surprised because they were they were in the negative on some of those plays. There was a lot. They threw a lot of big opportunities that they missed out on. I feel like they try to use Jamar Chase a little bit too much, where the last game they used anybody and everybody who was available. So that to me, I think was the difference in the game and the offensive side of the ball. Defensive wise, they did okay, but they didn't do enough, right? And so you got to give credit to the Chiefs, who the young players played out. They played a heart out. But McDuffie played a very solid game.
Yeah, he did. He sure did. And those are a lot of. At one point, they had the whole secondary was rookies.
Yeah, and Sparangelo called a great game. To be honest with you, didn't allow
Burrow was awesome, man.
Yeah, didn't allow Burrow to do things that to be quick with the ball and and find anybody open. So I don't think the game should have been that close. If the Bengals would have started scoring quicker, I think the game would have been different. But a lot of the things they wanted to do, Spagnuolo had a good game plan for them, shut them down. And then Burrow, I think at this game he tried to be too much. He didn't let the game come to him. He tried to be the game. And this is the first time I actually seen him play like that, where he was like trying to be the man instead of just play the game. And that doesn't work for him. And they need to go back to the drawing board on that if they're going to come back next year to be in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, and you know what? At first glance, what you're saying about Spagnuolo makes me think about this Eagle game in the Super Bowl. Not breaking it down, but there's just something I just been thinking about during the week that, even though the Eagles are favored in this game, you got to think about the fact that the shoulder issue is an issue for Jalen Hurts, and I think he may need some kind of surgery. It may be minor. I'm not talking Tommy John. I think his shoulder is really bothering him. And I don't know if it's going to be ready come Super Bowl time. And I know that Mahomes has that high ankle sprain, but he didn't have any interceptions or anything. He played pretty smart football. I think that it gives Kansas City a much better chance. I mean, I play these little parlay things, where 80 yards for AJ Brown is what I had, and I had the Eagles covering their point spread was like 3 or whatever. They got the spread easy, but man, he was missing some wide open guys. And he says, I'm not 100%. I'm like, yeah, you're not. Here's a number for you. Blowout win, right? You know how many yards he got? 270 total yards. I mean, he had a pretty bad, and that's the second. He didn't have a good game against the Giants either. So this makes a really interesting Super Bowl. So what do you think about Jalen Hurts? Look at the way he threw in that game.
So Robert, if both of these guys are injured, right?
Yeah.
So you taking their injuries, what is their, like, how are they going to be able to be competitive, and what is it that they'll be able to give to the offense? Because Jalen Hurts' biggest attribute is being able to scramble, and move around. And the second thing that he does is the quick throws, quick routes that they have him. AJ Brown and a few other guys. So is this injury that intense? Now, on the flip side, Mahomes, same thing. His attributes are his speed, being able to throw off any kind of foot, throw the ball in any kind of way. So who's better at being hurt and playing hurt? Now, what you're saying to me is that this is going to be a defensive battle. Whoever wins the ball, whoever wins the defense defensively is who's going to win the Super Bowl. That's pretty much what you're saying to me.
Well,
whoever's got the better defense will win the Super Bowl.
And
which is usually what it is, right?
Yeah, and that is true. And now, obviously, the answer to that would be they have better players on the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I think that there's a game plan. There's a game plan already set. Now, by the way, they've worked on that game plan. That game plan is in the book this week. Next week is media stuff, travel, all the hoopla.
And my thing, and I always say the same thing, is that the Chiefs need to go out and they can score fast, but they need to keep scoring fast and score a lot.
Yes.
Right? That's
uber aggressive.
Right. And they don't. They score a lot, but they get, they get into a little rhythm and they just start doing whatever the Andy Reid tells them to do, which is to slow the game down, which is detriment to their ability to crush teams. The Eagles, they just go out and score. And they've been before the first 6th and 7th game, they were averaging 33 points a game, where the Kansas City Chiefs were averaging 28 to 29 points a game. And so you can't say that the Chiefs are better in that retrospect. And the Eagles have a better O-line. They have a better D-line. They have so they're good on offense and defense.
They have a better secondary too.
Yeah, right now everything's looking like the Eagles might squeeze out this win, except for one thing. Hurts hasn't played hurt before, and we don't know what that's going to be.
Right. In other words, this is what I'm saying. Spagnuolo has beat the greatest offense of all time. And by the way, I didn't think is Chris Jones that much better than Ed Oliver for the Buffalo Bills? I mean, totally just whooped up on that offensive line there. I know they had backups. Now, you're talking daylight and dark, Eagles offensive line versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Remember, they had 3 players out. But, they look – I don't think they're that much better than Buffalo. Excuse me. I don't think they're that much better, man.
Here's my take on this. The Eagles have been ridiculed and not respected because of they say that the schedule was weaker, that they played lesser teams, but they won all those games. The Chiefs almost lost a few games. They had played a couple games in overtime, right? Remember the Titans almost came back and got them.
Yeah.
they let the Titans come up and catch them, and then they end up winning in overtime. So those kind of things are looked at, man. And I think the better team right now, and the better coaching, and right now the better attitude and the spirit of core and teamwork goes towards the Eagles, man. And I say the Eagles by 3. So
yeah,
I'm taking them.
And like I said, we'll break it down next
24-21.
week. But these are just early observations. If you, like you said, and that was my first thought about that is, you know, the Eagles could play like the Titans played them, except they have a player that can finish, but can he really finish? The Titans had, you know, he's way better than Malik Willis, even with a bad shoulder. But I forgot 2 weeks. That was a primetime game. They were major favorites in that game. I think even though it was a primetime game, I think the Chiefs kind of mentally checked out because they knew they were playing against a backup quarterback, and they were heavy favorites in that game against Tennessee. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm stacking that box, man. I'm stacking the box here, and I'm making Jalen Hurts beat me downfield, and I'm putting one of my better corners on what's his name, Dallas Goedert here, and I want to see if he can hit AJ Brown deep because he kept missing in the other game. You know, I'm going to test that out. I'm going to stop. I'm going to slow that run game down enough where I want to see how good you are with that shoulder because he missed a lot of players. That Devontae Smith, it was such a great catch, but it was actually a drop. You know, I mean, there's some argument for Kansas City. I'm not picking anybody. I'm just telling you this. This is what's going through my head during this week, man.
The storm is a brewing, right? In your head. Listen, Spagnola's going to have them try to keep them running the ball.
I may flip next week. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Spagnola's going to try to help them just have them keep running the ball. And that's something that, you know, he hopes that happens. And he's only going to be able to stop that so much because the Eagles actually have a better O-line, man. The Eagles have a couple of options, and if they do the whole play action fake and Hurts only has to throw the ball 10, 15 yards to Brown for him to get yak yards, then
that's what I'm saying. I don't think they'll do that. I mean, I'm putting 7-8 in the box. I'm saying, okay, you're not going to run. Now, when you do that, the problem is if you miss the first wave, you're going to give up some big plays, maybe a 50-yard touchdown. You see what I'm getting at?
If you see what the Eagles did to the Giants, stopping Barkley, right? He was the 4th best running back in the NFL.
No, I'm talking about Cincinnati defensively against the Eagles. I'm stacking that box, and I'm saying, okay, Hurts, let's see you make big throws downfield and we're going to see how much you really want to run against our front here. Yourself run with that bad shoulder. I mean, it's food for thought. I may change, you know. Like I said, it's food for thought. And quite frankly, what quarterbacks did they play in the playoffs? You know, I mean, you play the games that's in front of you, but still, I don't know, man. I saw a stat the other day that teams that blow out their championship games lose the Super Bowl, like the Giants in 2000. I don't know. That could just be just a fluke stat. I don't know, but it's just food for thought. Switching gears, man, we'll break that game down and make a prediction next week. It's not Super Bowl week. Okay. So we had some coaching. What do you think about, let's see here. Obviously, Sean Payton taking Denver, man. I didn't see that coming, man. I'm telling you.
I had a tidbit. Somebody told me like the other day. It was like, if you know that if Payton goes to Denver, he's gonna be money rolled by the richest person and one of the richest people in the world, not just the United States, but like in the world. So that kind of like, you know, that kind of made me think twice because I was saying that in a lot of places I didn't think that Denver was a place for Sean Payton, but if you think about it financially, he would be okay there because he could, if anything happens, the Waltons are open for business and they're willing to spend what it takes. And they're willing to make moves that need to be made. And, you know, they went out and got Wilson. I'm sure they're ready to cut him if he doesn't, you know, get a return on investment. So, and they don't mind getting that cut, right? They don't mind getting being charged that. So it's not really a bad place for him to go because he's guaranteed money for players and guaranteed money for his contract. So,
Okay, here's the early reports, and I know you guys really want to hear this. I love talking about this stuff. Okay, this is a little bit lower than I thought, Carlos. Mike Killis of 9news.com reports that Peyton will receive, this come out just a few hours ago, okay, between $17 and $20 million on a contract that at least 5 years. Peyton reportedly had been seeking 20 to 25 million. Okay. No, those are not final numbers. This may be a bogus report here. I know that he's officially signed for 5 years to the audience here. And something tells me that that may be a bogus report. But still, that's a lot of money, man. 17 to 20 is more than anybody.
Yeah, and you know what?
But I was thinking 25 though.
Peyton can go like I told you, and
maybe he's got incentives, you know.
Yeah, he could have chose to go anywhere he wanted to. So
yeah,
if that's where he picked and that's where he wanted to go, then it is what it is, and we're gonna have to, the West is gonna be the Wild Wild West that was supposed to be last year.
Do you think they'll make the playoffs with Peyton and Russell Wilson?
I mean, that's a good young defense there. They got to figure out that offense. Peyton be able to figure that offense out quick. They'll make some moves that they need to, and they'll be competitive for sure. I haven't ever seen a Peyton team that hasn't been competitive. So
that's my answer. I think they'll be. I'm not saying they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but I think they can be in the playoff hunt, wild card team, maybe some breaks, maybe win the division. The Kansas City is going to have to pay Patrick Mahomes that much more money next year. But that being said, I don't know what's going to happen with the Chargers. The Chargers may have struggled with Keelan Moore. The Cowboys were second in defense in a lot of different stats there. The Raiders, I'm pretty much still say that they're going to be a train wreck because of the Raiders.
The traders could go either way. It just depends on what the draft looks like, and then depends on what the spring training is like. If the people that are there are willing to stick it out for their contracts, or they want to just jump ship, which is kind of like what Raiders do, right? Go from one ship to another. So we'll see what happens out there in Vegas. And I don't know about San Diego. I don't know if Kellen Moore is the best pick for them to go out there as a.
No, I was hoping that ideally, during, I've been talking about this for months. I was hoping Sean Payton would have took over for the Chargers there.
Yeah.
I think that would have been Super Bowl or bust action there.
I think that's probably what he was looking at, and probably too much pressure for him as well. Maybe.
Yeah, and they went on and kept Staley. So what's your thoughts about Tom Brady retiring?
Yeah, I mentioned before on the show this morning that was coming to join the show. When she snuck in.
That's okay.
So
you're like like you go to the podium. The players got their kids on the podium.
She's too heavy to put on my lap. So our age group. This is the best quarterback we've ever seen in our age group. We saw the back end of Joe Montana's career, which didn't end in the best way. Even though a lot of people say he's the best quarterback stat-wise during the season. However, Joe had more to play with than Tom Brady did. And I'm not going to compare the two. I think they both are the best QBs. But for our generation, it is what it is. Like, he's the best player that we've seen, our generation has seen. And, 7 Super Bowls to prove it, with a lot of winning him in a lot of different ways. Because he wasn't always the number one player, but he was always in the number one team. And, and he was one of the main, people on the team. So that's what he gets credit for, right? He had a great kicker. They got him out of a couple of jams. He's had great defenses. He's had great coaching.
What a clutch kicker there. Adam Vinatieri, man.
Yeah, he had some great coaching, but so had Joe Montana. Joe Montana had even more to work with, even more tools on the offense, even better defenses, even better coaching. So if you want to try to compare the two, I think it's just a lost cause. Two different types of football being played. So hats off to Tom Brady for being the best player, that we've seen.
Right. Roger Craig, all those guys, Rice, Taylor,
Ronnie Lott,
Ronnie Lott. Here's some food for thought. There was no salary cap. The salary cap started in '94.
Right.
So Montana, most of his career, he won all his Super Bowls. Brady had to deal with the salary cap. The Patriots had to deal with Patriots had misses on players. Now they got some bargains on Corey Dillon, Randy Moss, Wes Welker. Those guys were bargain players. A converted quarterback and Julian Edelman. People says, well, Brady never has a big throw or big moment. And you know why? Because he made all the little throws. He made himself in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2. Right. Because, it's hard to really argue against the guy. It gets harder. I read all his stats the other day. It's crazy some of the records he got. Nobody. The reality
is that after 25, after being 25 years old, he's been able to do stuff that no other quarterback was able to do. Even Joe Montana, like he's better. Yeah. He's fit now. He has better fitness and athleticism now as a 44, 45-year-old. Well, he's 45, right? 45-year-old.
Yeah, he'll be 46 in August.
Yeah, then half of the quarterbacks in the league. Think about that. Like,
Pickle says Brady would be big, without Belichick.
Okay, but he was with Belichick.
He won a Super Bowl with Tampa, Pickle.
And Seifert. So, it is what it is. And we saw what we saw. And you saw what you saw. So, we saw a guy win 7. You saw a guy win, what, 6? How many Joe Montana win?
4.
4. So, we can't. We're comparing oranges and apples, man. 2 different eras, bro.
Yeah, and Montana took some harder hits because they were legal. Yeah, he was knocked out of a game. You must have seen that Mike Francesa thing, didn't you?
I saw Mike Francesa. I saw.
Well, he was talking about Montana had a better quarterback rating in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I saw it.
Brady wasn't afraid to take the big pass. He threw a pick 6 against Atlanta, and they come back and won. They were down 28-3.
Won. We saw what we saw, and they saw what they saw. So, what we're gonna?
Yeah, I saw a lot of their games too. There's tape there. It is what it is. But when you've got 3 more, it's really hard. Some guys just hate Brady, and I get it, but. It just is what it is, man. The dude gets up earlier. He works harder, like Nick Saban. He practices falling down, for crying out loud.
The man was a 7th-round pick, man.
6th-round pick. He's not the strongest, but neither was Montana. He never had the strongest arm. So anyways, okay, so now we had, who was this other guy? DeMeco Ryans. What do you think about what do you think about Houston going with another defensive-minded head coach, man?
I mentioned this earlier with Keith. Like, DeMeco Ryans should have stayed away from Houston. Houston needs new ownership and management, and I think it's just a fire sale is going to happen soon, and he's going to be caught in the whirlwind of that, and it's going to be bad news. He's trying to get head up in his world, but I would have kind of stayed clear from Houston. Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, and that's true. I think maybe they should sell. I think maybe they'll sell the team at some point. It seems like this guy's quick to spend money. The dad died back in 2018. They've been a mess ever since.
A big mess.
Since the son's running things up there. It's just something to think about. I wouldn't have went with another defensive-minded guy. He played for them. Could he be a Mike Vrabel type of talent where he was only a defensive coordinator 2 years, then he goes up to head coach, and he coaches well? J.J. Watt was really high on him. I don't know. He might be good. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I just don't see how you go defense when it hasn't really worked out. And you want to bring in a new quarterback and you want to get defensive-minded head coach? If you're going to get C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young, I would have went to Shane Steichen from Philadelphia.
I don't know. it's just D'Amico Ryans has got a uphill battle the whole way through, and it's I wish he would have started on a better foot, man, because
he'll get another job as a DC if they fire him. I mean, they'll pay him. He'll make 20, 30 million or whatever out of this deal, no matter what happens. Okay, trying to see if there's anything. I guess I could ask you about the Knicks. They're 7th seed, man. Do you see them maybe picking up anybody? What do you think about Thibodeau? You think they should move on and get more of an offensive guy, like a Steve Kerr situation? And Mark Jackson?
Since the day he put a roster together, I said Tibbs should have been fired. He shouldn't have been hired. And there's a reason for that. And he's a great coach, but his style and his and the way he manages, he should be in a good college, like a top 10 college. In the NBA, the game has passed him in the NBA. It's a different game now, and it's a shooter's game, not a defender's game. And he's going to want to retool that roster, but there's nobody out there that plays defense like he wants them to play defense. He runs teams to the bone. He runs them to get his stars to get injured. He wants them back sooner than they're supposed to be back, and that's just not. It's just not the way the game is anymore. So, I mean, the Knicks are going to be terrible until they figure out something else in management and something else in as far as coaching is. So.
Yeah, I hope he figures it out, but I'm starting to become to that line of thinking that maybe he has set the culture in. Maybe he simply wants to. Maybe it'll be a good idea to look to upgrade and get a Steve Kerr-like coach that can get this team more of an offensive identity. Not Mike D'Antoni. His teams play no defense. But somebody that's modern, like a Quinn Snyder. Remember the guy who used to coach Utah? Somebody like that. That's just an example to get this team.
Well, they tried, and the problem with the Knicks is that they can't get 4 or 5 people that are top-tier players or top 10 players. So when
you're
they can't
saying
do
it's
that,
because of the owner? They can't get a big free agent?
It starts from the top, right? And so, he's not selling the team. He's not selling anything in New York. So,
Well, at least they're in the playoff hunt, and they're not really technically in the play-in game. They're 7th seed. They would be playing the 2.
Would you pay $400 for a Knicks ticket?
I would pay 400 cents for one, but that's just me, No, I may pay 400 cents if Giannis is in town or somebody. But anyways, looks like Carlos is having some technical problems here. Oh, there he is. Well, man, I'm not going to hold you, brother. Now he's popped off again. Like I said before, Knicks, I don't have them in the championship hunt. I hope they don't go out and get a Kyrie, everybody. They're one of those teams. They're right on the precipice of doing something. I feel like they've been building something for the last few years. I do like the Jalen Brunson pickup. Probably could use some more star power. At least get another assistant coach in here to help put this offense, have a little bit more continuity in the offense, more flow. I do like the fact of his players do play hard for him and whatnot. I would like to see that be done, with this New York Knicks team. I just hope they don't go star chasing Pickles. Pickle says Dolan can screw up a free meal. Yeah. He's a guy that he gets offended by. One guy said, Dolan, you suck, and he had him thrown out. I mean, it was from a distance, and it just you wouldn't think that he would be that kind of thin skin. I mean, it's New York City. What do you expect? But anyways, Carlos, thank you for coming on. Sorry you had difficulties, man. Appreciate you taking your Friday nights and having these discussions, everybody. If you like the show, share the show. I'll be back on Monday. Maybe we'll have something that has developed from this Kyrie Irving situation. And as a side note, there's a few stories I wanted to talk about. There's Tony Romo's story about CBS having an intervention. I'll get to that next week. Derek Carr, there's news that he has been officially granted permission to seek a trade. So that's a story I'm going to monitor throughout the weekend and see where he goes. Thank you for watching the program. Have a good weekend, everybody. I'll be back tonight here on Monday night here on Sports Scope, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show on the Northeast streaming network through YouTube channel, Facebook. I'll be on there Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, 8:30 a.m. for about 30 minutes with those guys talking about this week's biggest news in sports. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.